Good evening. Welcome to another edition to the Street Peace Coalition. My name is Johnny Muhammad, and I'm here with my guest, Brother Ernest Muhammad. As you know, we come to you every week live from CAN TV studios on 13th and Wood. Street Peace Coalition is an organization that's dedicated to bringing peace and harmony to troubled communities in Chicago. And we work through members who have been in very difficult situations in our community and recognize that other people still live in those difficult situations, and they're trying to make a difference in our neighborhoods by going out and creating opportunities for us to engage in peaceful resolution rather than the fratricide that we see on a daily basis in our households and in our families and in our communities. The last time we talked, Brother Ernest Muhammad was sharing with us a little bit of his bio and how he came up on the rough side of the mountain and how he started off as very rocky and then began to really change the direction of his life, and how his life is really a microcosm of many of the lives of young people in Chicago, and he developed a pathway for upward mobility and success, and now you are a individual business owner, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. And have created opportunities for himself and his family, and we were really discussing how you were able to chart an independent course for yourself and come up out of a lot of the difficult situations, particularly the gang life,
Yes, sir.
in a life of crime, which a lot of our young people are beset by, and make some changes for the positive, and then begin to reverberate those changes to other young people in the community and help them to see the value in themselves.
Yes, sir.
And how they can do likewise.
Yes, sir.
So we want to pick up on that.
Yes, sir.
And before we do, did you have any opening comments, Brother Ernest?
No, not really. Just meditating on what you was asking, and trying to wrap my mind around that.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So now you were a young man who had grown up in Lincoln Park.
I went to school. I went to Lincoln Park High School.
You went to Lincoln Park High School.
Yes, sir.
All
Grew
right.
up on the west side of Chicago. My mom moved around quite a bit, but primarily the west side is my base, I would say. Averson, Thomas, Chicago Avenue, those general areas.
But it sounds like you were struggling to exist in two different worlds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for a time, yeah.
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 So those two different worlds exercise some pull on you, and then eventually one world or one gravitational pull
Took me under
one
a little
out
bit. Yeah.
over the other,
Yes, sir.
and then you gravitated toward the street organizations
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and became an influential leader
Yes, sir.
in those organizations.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So why don't we pick up there, and then afterwards we can talk about the path that you took to kind of turn yourself around. Okay.
Well, of course, like I said the last time we were here together, I was in a street organization called the Unknown Vice Lords. Everybody knows the infamous Willie Lord. That was my leader. The person that we all followed, who started the organization. Basically, we were in different areas trying to, I guess, do him on a small scale, so to speak.
Okay.
Control the general area we was in, control basically everything was going on in the neighborhood from
Okay.
the corner stores to, you know, whatever was being sold or done or whatever on the streets. The difference between us then and us now is that there were rules, there were regulations, there were laws, so to speak, that we had, and we a lot of times deviated from the laws, but more so we were it was about a 50-50. We were in line with them in most cases, and in some cases we weren't. So today you don't have that. So I think that presents a greater difficulty factor with giving these young men some sense of
Okay.
direction,
Okay. Okay.
because and I know people may disagree with this, but if you can identify with a person's system or what their code or the way they operate, and then through that try to give them some direction or some clearer understanding of it, it's easier than giving a scattered mind person some sense of direction when they have no moral compass, they have no rule or law that they abide by. They call themselves, you know, a bunch of different things, but they have no set of rules, no guidelines, no nothing to measure how they're connected to a group or what have you. So
Right. Right.
that makes it more difficult.
So it seemed as though the thing that you latched onto was an organization that had some structure,
Yes, sir.
that had at least some minimal set of discipline,
Yeah, some remnants of brotherhood.
right, and
Yes,
some
sir.
brotherhood,
Right.
and gave you a sense of identity
Yes, sir.
at a period in time where you were searching for it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what kind of mentors, other than the gang members or street organization members, did you have in your life at that time?
Well, most of my family members was gravitating towards the same thing, so to speak.
Okay,
So it wasn't much. There was, in other words, there was not a lot in terms of looking at something opposite or something contrary to the direction you was going. It was not a lot. It wasn't a lot in front of me at the time with that.
at least not a lot you could identify with.
Right.
You could relate to, that really made you feel as though you were valuable, and that met your needs at that time.
Right. I mean, most of the adults in the family or whatever, the older people in the family, it was kind of hard taking some instructions from them for the fact of whatever they personal issues were. Either they were drinking or doing this or doing that. So it was a little difficult to take any guidance from them. A lot of times when I was selling drugs, they was customers. So it was difficult for me as a young guy
Wow.
to listen to anything you were telling me when, you know,
Wow.
later on today you going to meet me on the block and be trying to be short on the bag. You got $9.50 and it's $10. So
Wow.
that was hard for me to hear anything you were saying that probably made sense. It probably was correct. It probably, you were probably 100% right. You know, I needed to do this and this and this and that, but
But it doesn't seem like they was living by it.
right. So that was kind of that was
a mixed message.
yeah. It was definitely a mixed
It
message.
was
So
clearly a mixed message.
yes, sir. So
Right.
so the majority, I may have had one or two family members, that I could think of off the top of my head that weren't in those situations and things like that. So it was but two and few, very 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 few, and a few that weren't in those situations. I had very little time to be, I didn't get a chance to be around them a lot or whatever. And then a lot of times I think when you out running the streets or whatever, you kind of avoid people that you think is gonna lecture you or get in your face about your behavior. So
Because they basically are interfering with your agenda at that time.
yeah. So
And when they introduce ideas and thoughts to you that go contrary to what you want to do at that time,
you
ain't trying to.
out
hear
of
it.
respect, you like,
You just-
all right, I'll talk to you later.
right.
You try to get away from them as quick as possible. You hear them, but you don't hear them. You know what I'm saying? And then it's funny because when you get older, you find yourself like, man, I sound like my uncle. You know what I'm saying? Or I sound like this one or that one. So yeah.
So before we get to the turning point in your life,
Mhm.
what I'd like to find out, was there any occurrence, any event that happened to you that made you second guess the life that you were living? Any situation,
Yes.
anything that just you were confronted with that made you question whether or not this was the right lifestyle for you?
Um, this is a terrible, terrible incident that happened with me that really put me in a spirit that it put me in a bad place, and nothing happened actually, but the possibility of what could have happened. I was out. I was on Averish and Chicago Avenue. As a matter of fact, I was right by my grandmother's house.
Now that's like West
The
Humboldt
800
Park.
Well, they call it West Humboldt now, but that's the west side.
It's just the west side.
Yeah, it's the west side.
Right.
So they try to
spruce
take
it up.
Yeah,
West Humboldt Park.
right.
Okay.
So I'm out there, and I got my daughter, my oldest daughter at this time. My daughter was very young. She probably wasn't even walking at the time. She was in a car seat in the back of my car, and I had her with me. And I'm going in my grandmother's house and stuff like that, and going to get drugs that I stashed in my grandmother's house to take it to the guys on the block. And I come out of the house, and they were selling the same cocaine on the corner from my grandmother's house. But some of the people that buy drugs from me saw me come out of my grandmother's house, and I guess they were standing out there waiting for the guys that were selling over there, because I was selling on the Division or Averish and Thomas. And and Hamlin and Thomas down there. I was on the other end, on the my grandmother lived in an 800 block. I was down like on a 1200 block. That's why I usually sell drugs at, not on the 800 block. This was some different group of guys, the foes. So when I came out of the house, when I came out of my grandmother's house, they bombarded me because they was already standing out there waiting to get some drugs from these other guys that were selling over there. So naturally, by me just getting the majority of my drugs that I had left, just at my little stash spot that I had in my grandmother's house. Not intentionally trying to sell it right there, meaning to take it down to where I did sell drugs at. I ended up like selling majority of all the drugs I had right there, right in front of my grandmother's house. So the guys who drug spotted they saw me doing this. So once I sold all the stuff that I had in my hand, and I went back in the house to get some more of the stuff that I had hid in my grandmother's house, and I came back out, I saw them running up the block, and they opened fire on me. They started shooting at me. And
so your grandmother's house was in a location of another drug market.
Yeah, right, like
and
on
you
the
didn't have
corner,
any
and
intention to sell in that market. You just
Right.
went to go get it.
right,
But your customers
saw me
saw you.
come out of
and
there.
Just,
They just rushed me.
they just rush you. Right.
So
So now that brought you into conflict with
Right.
somebody who felt as though you were selling in their territory.
right.
Wow.
And I jumped in my car.
And your daughter's in the car.
My daughter's in the back seat all this time while I'm
She's
steady.
in the car seat.
Right. Well, I'm steady going back and forth in
Wow.
in my grandmother's house. And when I finally came out and got in my car and was trying to take off, by the time I was trying to take off and pull off, these guys started shooting at my car. And I drove off and I went around on my end of the in that 1000 block or whatever, Hamlin, 1100 block of Hamlin. So I get down there, and when I get down there and I stop, trying to see everything was going on or whatever, I had a Chevy Caprice, and it's like I had a 4-door Chevy Caprice, and right by the back window, there's like this little section before you get to the back window and the actual door window, and it was a hole inside the car, and the angle of the hole was like right in front of my daughter's face. So what I realized was that my daughter, who is a grown woman now, could have been killed that day. And that shook me up real bad. And I was like, man, it made me start to say to myself, man, is this worth it? You know. And yeah, that was a real tragic experience. Although nothing happened to her or whatever, but the thought of that just messed up my whole spirit.
Okay.
And that was an incident when I started to say to myself, you know, how much longer am I gonna keep doing this?
Right.
And things to that nature. So yeah.
So you pressed the pause button at that point.
Yeah, I started to search out what is it that I could do that's different. You know, is this the say all be all, so to speak? Because you know, and I thought of all different types of things to go do and so on and so forth. But the question kept coming back to me was, if my daughter was hit that day, and at that time that was my only child, what would I, how would that have affected me? So yeah,
Right.
that was
Right.
me, I was at that time, I think I was like 19, 20 years old. So yeah, it really shook me up real bad. Yeah.
All right. So that was the beginning of a transitional
Yeah.
experience for you. What really made you decide to go into a different direction?
Well, it seemed like soon after that, everything started spiraling out of control for me. And it seems like, when I think back on it, it seemed like I was warned every step of the way. So that's the real funny part about it.
Well, you're still here, so obviously you heeded the warning.
Nah, I didn't. I didn't heed the warning in the way
Not
that I should
initially,
have. Nah. One day my grandmother calls me and tells me, and bless her soul, she's passed on now, but she tells me to not go outside, stay in the house, stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, this lady is going crazy. I'm like, okay, grandma, I'm just agreeing with her to get her off the phone. And I don't know why she called me and early in the day telling me to stay in the house. She had a dream. So I'm like, this is weird. And for sure, later on that day, I got shot in the back 2 times. So
Wow.
it was like incident after incident after incident, because I think maybe after the incident with my daughter, this had to happen maybe like a week or so after that. Then,
So your grandmother told you to stay in the house, that she had a dream.
yes,
You went out anyway
yes,
and wound up getting shot in the back.
yes.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
and a few other things happened, and I ended up locked up. So, and I was like, man, how much longer I'm gonna last operating like this? And that's when I started searching for answers, for change. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, it sounds as though we have not yet completed your story.
Yes, sir.
So you've actually taken our viewers on an adventure
Yes, sir.
that many young people in America, especially in urban settings,
Yes, sir.
have also experienced. And I'm sure that many of our viewers have similar stories.
Yes, sir.
Brother Ernest Muhammad is a member of the Street Peace Coalition, and he is a member who has been instrumental in intervening in conflicts throughout the city and helping young people to find their way out of difficult situations that have resulted in violence and conflict in our neighborhoods. I want to really just give another plug for Street Peace Coalition. You can reach us on Facebook.com. Look us up there. You can also reach us on our website, streetpeacecoalition.weebly.com. So we want to pick up next week and finally
Get this done.
get to
Yes, sir.
how you came out of
Yes, sir.
a situation that was very difficult
Yes, sir.
for you personally, and I'm sure your family probably recognized some significant changes in you.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Because they actually saw you when you were out there bad
Yes, sir. Definitely.
and see you how you are now.
Yes, sir.
But you are no different than many other people that come up out of similar situations and
Yes.
find a way out.
Yes, sir.
So we want to really revisit this next week.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And hopefully this will give some encouragement and some insight and direction to many of our viewers who are facing similar difficult situations. And we'd like you to tune in again next week, same time, same station, Street Peace Coalition. Look us up again on our Facebook page or on our webpage, streetpeacecoalition.weebly.com. My name is Johnny Muhammad, and again, thank you for joining us, Ernest Muhammad, and we look forward to having you join us again next week.